Hi guys, welcome back to SwitchUp. At the end of this video we're going to be announcing the winner of our giveaway from the last sales video, and I've already got a game lined up to give away for the next episode, so make sure you subscribe. Remember, at the end of the video I'll be talking about 2 games that you should definitely avoid, so stick around for those. As always, there are some great games on sale on the eShop. We're going to pick out a few that maybe we haven't spoken a great deal about in the past and draw your attention to them. If you don't have any cash left over, then just add them to your watch list. I know for a fact I'm going to be spending some money. What's worth picking up on this sale? Well, let's find out. First up is a game that doesn't need a huge amount of introduction, but it's one that you should pick up. It's Streets of Rage 4, recently receiving 90% from Glen and about 90% on average from pretty much every other reviewer. There's a lot to like about this. I'm not a particular fan of beat 'em ups in general, but even I have had a great time with it. There's a few mechanics which I'd like to point out to you. Things like your special abilities, taking a chunk out of your health bar, but then if you get normal attacks in afterwards, it restores this. It gives it a real strategic feeling, and actually I enjoyed the ability to play with up to 4 players on screen, despite thinking it might be a little bit crowded. There's also online multiplayer and quite a bit of after-game content and other modes. Check out Glen's full review of this one, but I would say it's an essential pickup. If you're not going to get it physically, then go out and grab it while it's on sale. Next up we've got Siberia 2, and actually, do you know what, I berated these games when they were launched because I said it's a ludicrous price. It's an old title and they were launching it at something crazy like 20 odd quid, and it's 95% off at the moment, taking it down to about £1.30, which is, to be honest, the price it should be. Maybe like 4 quid or something, but for a quid this is an absolute steal. They're excellent adventure titles, and if you're a fan of the old school point and click style, you're going to get a lot of fun, and certainly you're going to get £1's worth of playtime. Absolute bargain. Obviously if you haven't played the first title, then pick that up first. That's also on sale, as well as the third, which is a 3D reimagining of the series, and it's also pretty decent. This time around though, joining Kate Walker is the eccentric Hans Volraberg, I think I said that wrong, and they're searching for a forgotten world, home to the last legendary mammoths of Siberia, or so the eShop goes. Needless to say, it's set in a very snowy and wintry setting and will provide you a decent amount of escapism. This sale goes on until the 6th. Now, Glen is always banging on about Deadly Premonitions, and Deadly Premonitions Origins from Toybox is currently half price on the Nintendo Switch. There is a sequel about to come out actually, so it might be a good time to jump into the series. A mysterious serial murder occurs in Greenvale, a small town in North America surrounded by beautiful nature. FBI agent York sets out with his friend Zach to find the case. Spend time with the townspeople, soak yourself in the nature, and the truth will gradually appear, or so it says on the eShop. There's a bit of a supernatural element to the game as Glen described it, but it's also a cult classic and has a huge following. This sale goes on till the 17th, so you've got a good chunk of time to potentially pick it up and check out some reviews, but if you're looking for something perhaps a touch out of the ordinary, then this might be the game for you.
The first witnesses to the crime scene.
Excellent. We work day and night to preserve peace and order in this town.
Every citizen of this town is a suspect.
The strategy genre, especially real-time strategy, is few and far between on the Switch, but Northgard from Shiro Games was an example that Glen quite enjoyed. At launch it had a few issues, like it was quite glitchy and slow in places, but they've patched it up nicely and they've been working hard on it, and now it's currently 50% off. I would say this is the perfect time to buy if you're a fan of strategy titles. It's based on Norse mythology, in which you control a clan of Vikings vying for the control of a mysterious newfound continent, so pretty standard. You'll be building your settlements on this continent, assigning your Vikings to different jobs, managing resources, expanding, conquering, you know the deal. Think Settlers, you know. Absolute classic games, and they're classic for a reason. There's a lot to be had here, and for 50% off, I would say it's a great time to pick it up. Next up we've got Human Fall Flat, which was one of my first reviews on this channel. It's from Curve Digital, and you can play the whole experience with the free update that released that adds multiplayer, and it's amazing. It's so much fun. It's a physics-based puzzle platformer for up to 8 players, but it doesn't really do it justice. It's got a real sandboxy feel to it, and that kind of feeling where you could do anything almost. It's like parkour with jelly. As I said, there is a local co-op mode, so you can join a friend and play through each of these levels, customize your character. Almost feels like you're working your way through a surrealist painting at times, and it's a game where the developers are constantly working on it and trying to improve it and add things to it. It's really good. I recommend checking out my review, although it's very dated and probably terrible in all honesty. It does what I want it to do, which is to tell you that it's such a good game. Flashback, which is currently reduced to a ludicrously cheap price, and it's a classic game well worth playing. It celebrates its 25th anniversary with this version and has sold over 2 million units since it launched. If you haven't seen my recent review of Ministry of Broadcast, then do go and check that out because there's a lot of similarities here. They added in a few maybe controversial features that they so often do. Things like being able to rewind when you die so that you don't have to redo it from start. It's a nice quality of life touch, but for original players it can feel a touch cheap. Still, it's, I guess, nice to have it here. You don't have to use it. It does come with a modern mode as well, which has certain graphical differences and a few tutorials, which tutorials, man, they just didn't exist, did they, back in the day? There's a nice story to this, and it still looks quite good. It holds up visually with lots of platforming, but in a slower and more methodical way. I loved this as a kid, and I still enjoy it as an adult. Yes, I meant to mention this one last week, and for whatever reason I just forgot to, but it's a great game. It's called Little Dragon's Cafe, and quite honestly it was massively overpriced. It was like $59 or what, 50 quid, but it's been reduced by 70%, taking it down to $17.99, which is an absolute bargain. This is a great game. You essentially manage and run a little cafe on an island and then use the experience and whatnot to train up a dragon. I mean, that is awesome. Glen's been raving about this for ages, but I finally picked it up and I can't tear my daughter away from it. It's a great title. You have a number of slightly unusual cafe employees who join you, but you and your twin finding, raising and growing that dragon and cafe. It's just such a charming concept and works really well. I also really appreciate the art style they've gone for. At times it almost resembles a watercolour and even a touch of Wind Waker. A very good game, well worth picking up, probably my pick of the week. This sale goes on until the 7th. If Stardew Valley is a game you love, but it's maybe a bit too, how best to put this, happy for you, then Graveyard Keeper is a nice alternative. Here you take on the role of a newly appointed Graveyard Keeper, and you have to gradually pimp up the graveyard by improving the headstones, but there's also an entirely different mechanic whereby you autopsy corpses and can then either consume or sell the body parts. I know it's a ludicrous sounding title, but it's so addictive. Yes, as with all these games, it does get a bit grindy. I do recommend going and checking out my review. I gave it a very high score, but still there might be a few things in there that you don't really resonate with. And endgame's not the greatest. This certainly isn't as good as Stardew, but it's a very, very compulsive title. I think what could have made it better would be perhaps having a multiplayer mode, but they have added quite a bit of DLC since its launch, including the Breaking Dead and Stranger Sins. Another game that I would say is a perfect pickup on sale is Silence from Daedalic Games. This is 75% off, taking it to around about $10, and it's an adventure title in a classic tradition based around a world filled with war, where 16-year-old Noah and his little sister Renee seek shelter in a bunker, and they find themselves in what's described as a crossroads between life and death known as Silence. When Noah's sister gets lost in Silence, he's forced to venture into this idyllic yet threatening world to find her, and that's where your adventure begins. There's nothing overly revolutionary about this title, but I would say the visuals are beautiful, the storytelling's solid, and it's certainly a perfect sales pickup. It's nice to have 3 different playable characters, and that mix of 3D characters on 2D backgrounds can sometimes work really nicely, and I like the way they've used it here. This sale goes on until the 10th. Last but not least then is a series, and I'm going to finish with something that's going to make a lot of you scratch your head and go, what the heck is he talking about? Has anyone heard of The Mighty Boosh? Yeah? No? Maybe? If you haven't, you need to watch it because it's amazing. But it's such a strange, black, surreal comedy. Well worth checking out. It's a British thing with Noel Fielding heading up the main characters and the moon as well. But it's just bizarre, and it's just kind of the way my brain works. So when Baobabs Mausoleum episode 1 came out, I thought, this is a bit of me. Now there are demos of these if you want to try them out, because you might look at this and be like, this is terrible, but it's great. It's made by one Spanish guy, it's a trilogy, and they're currently very cheap on sale. The main character is a detective who is also an eggplant. And everything takes place in the town of Flamingos Creek. The music's insane, the whole premise is bonkers, but something about it just works. It also shifts often from like first person to the top down standard that it's used to, and just mixes things up and tries to make it fun. Well recommend this, great series. Okay, it's that time of the week that we all so enjoy, and it's where we look at 2 games you should absolutely avoid, as if you've gone on a first date with it and it's asked if you'd consider moving in. No thanks, definitely not. First up we have Harvest Moon Mad Dash. Now if you're unaware, there was a real rift with Harvest Moon where the title and the namesake split. So the original developers went one way and the owners of the name went the other way, and we got Harvest Moon Mad Dash. Absolute garbage, just pure trash. It's mobile in the worst possible way. You're looking at 1 to 3 stars per section. Ugh, no, it takes all the goodness of going out and building up your farm and doing everything that you would enjoy in these types of games, and just no thank you very much. Sticks it into a nasty looking, low poly, formulaic mess of a game. It's currently 50% off. Avoid it. No thank you. And then there's Finn and the Ancient Mystery. Now, I was quite excited about this game for some reason, and I got my review copy, and it's just bad. It's just bad. It's one of those where nothing quite fits. Almost like old school Flash animation, but just done poorly. The character, when you land, does a backstep. The jumping feels floaty. The combat doesn't feel as good as it should. And then, do you know what? In actual fact, this is a title that would benefit from going into pixel art. It would be a lot harder to get it wrong, and it just looks cheap and doesn't play much better. Not a fan of this one, I'm afraid. If you like it, then, well, congratulations. I just really didn't enjoy it at all. So that's it for this week. Hopefully some suggestions that you enjoy. As I said, my pick of the week is definitely Little Dragon's Cafe. Glen was right about that. So addictive. So addictive. My goodness, it's probably the last thing you need right now, but very enjoyable. Let me know down in the comments any that you've picked up so that other people can maybe check those out. And do subscribe if you want to be in with winning the free game giveaway in the sales video next week. As always, for all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers, guys. See ya!